Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to this video. I'm Venkat and this is Just Me an Open Source channel. Right, in this video let's see how to configure an auto scaling group. If you remember from my previous video, I configured an elastic load balancer and I only deployed one web server in an EC2 instance. So that's not a high available scenario. So if you were to deploy a highly available web application, you should consider deploying your web servers across multiple availability zones. So that's what we are going to do with the use of auto scaling groups. So I've got my notes here. I'm going to be using the default VPC and I will be in the London region EU West 2, which has 3 availability zones. And when you create your Amazon free tier account, every account comes with a default VPC, and in every region, every availability zone, you get one single public subnet. So I'll do a separate videos on how to create custom VPCs, private and public subnets, internet gateway, NAT gateway. But for this video, let's stick with the default VPC and the default subnets. So what we're trying to do in this video is to create an auto-scaling group which consists of our web servers. So it will be deployed across these 2 availability zones, and our elastic load balancer will be deployed across these 2 availability zones for high availability. And regarding the security groups, elastic load balancer will be exposed to the public, so the public traffic will be hitting the elastic load balancer, and the only traffic hitting the web servers will be the traffic on port 80 from the elastic load balancer. So when it comes to configuring the security group, you will understand what I'm exactly saying. And we are going to set up launch an EC2 instance and configure it as a web server, and then we are going to verify that it's working, and then we create an image of the instance as an Amazon machine image. And then when it comes to auto scaling group, we use the launch configuration, and we are going to use that AMI that we created earlier as the launch instance. So the launch configuration actually says what to launch. And then we have the auto scaling group and then the scaling policies. Let's see each of these steps. And when I show you this demo, you will understand what each steps and what are all the steps that are involved in setting up a high available web application. Okay, let me go back to my AWS management console. I've logged into my management console as a non-root admin user account that I created, which I showed in my second video in this series, I think. Okay, so now what we are going to do is we are going to launch an EC2 instance, configure it, and then create an image. I'm going to go into EC2 console, launch instance. I'm going to select this image, T2 micro. Number of instances is 1, default VPC, no preference for subnet, everything is looking good. Under advanced details, I'm going to bootstrap this this EC2 instance. So when it comes up, it'll be ready to serve a web page. Shebang bin bash yum install -y httpd, and then check config httpd on echo. Let's put some sample text into it. Welcome to my world. Okay, let's close the tags, and then I'm going to redirect this to var www.html index.html. And finally, I'm going to start the HTTPD service. Service HTTPD start. Okay. Add storage. I'm going to go with the default storage. Add tags. If you want, you can add tag. Let me add a tag. Name web template. Configure security group. Okay. Let me change that to my IP, and then we also going to add a rule for HTTP. And again, my IP. If you want, you can change that to custom IP, and then you can change that to whatever you want. Okay, review and launch, and I've got a key pair created already, so I'm going to acknowledge and launch instance. View instances. Okay, the instance is getting launched, so it will take about a couple minutes, and there is one terminated instance. So whenever you terminate your instance, it will disappear in a while, but it won't get cleaned up quite quickly. So it might take about an hour for this to clear up. But in case if you don't want to see this, you can filter it by instance state exclamation mark for not equals to terminated. So that's gone. So we have this one here running and it's initializing at the moment. So it's going to take a couple of minutes. I'm going to pause the video and come back when it's ready. All right, the instance is ready. Let's quickly grab the public IP address of the instance and see if we can see the web page. Cool. Welcome to my world. So that's working fine. So now what we are going to do is we are going to create an image from this instance. So click on action, image, create image. So let's give it a name, image name, my custom web server, image description. That's not needed. Create image. Okay, close. And if we go to AMIs now, and it says it's creating the image, and that's the AMI name, my custom web server, and the status is pending. So it's going to take again a couple of minutes to the status to change to active. So once that's done, we no longer need the instance, and we can delete this instance once the image is ready. So I'm going to pause the video again now and come back when the image has been created. All right, the image has been created. So now we can go an instance and then we can delete this instance. We no longer need this instance. Instance state and then terminate. Yes, terminate, and the instance is shutting down. All right, the instance is gone now. We have terminated the instance. And let's also delete the security group that we created as part of that instance to avoid some confusion. Delete security group, and the security group is now gone. Okay, so we've done the AMI image. We have created the image from the EC2 instance. So now let's configure the Elastic Load Balancer. The reason I'm creating the load balancer first before AutoScalingGroup is because when you come to configuring the AutoScalingGroup, you need to select the existing Elastic Load Balancer. So that's the reason I'm going to create Elastic Load Balancer first and then the AutoScalingGroup. Okay, let's go back here, go back to Load Balancers, and then create Load Balancer. I'm going to use the application Load Balancer. Give it a name, Web ELB. It has to be internet facing. Load balancer protocol is HTTP. So this is where it gets interesting. So availability zone, where do you want to deploy your load balancer instances? So I want to deploy the load balancer instances across these two availability zones. So EUS 2A and 2B. Okay, so select EUS 2A and 2B. And since I've got only one subnet, which is a public subnet, that's fine. But if you've got multiple subnets, just choose the public subnet. That's very important because your load balancer needs to be accessible from the internet through the internet gateway. So put that in a public subnet. Your web servers, and if you've got database servers, you can put them in a private subnet. That's not a problem. But the internet facing load balancer should be in a public subnet in all availability zones. Next, configure security settings. That's just a warning saying that we don't have HTTPS. That's okay. Configure security group. Okay, I'm going to create a new security group and call it Web ELB Security Group. And I'm going to set the same for the description, Web ELB Security Group. It's going to be HTTP and everything is allowed. So it's open to the public on port 80. Configure routing. New target group. So let's add a target group name, web servers target group. Instance HTTP protocol. That's all looking good. Advanced health check settings. If you want, you can set any of these. You can change any of these options according to your needs. Interval. So it checks the health of the instances every 30 seconds and so on. That's okay. Register targets. So I'm going to ignore that now because when it comes to configuring the auto scaling group, from there you'll be able to select this target group which we just created. So we don't need to register any of the targets. So the target gets registered automatically or as part of the auto scaling group. Review. and then create. Okay, so our load balancer is successfully created. So load balancer is getting provisioned, so that's okay. And we've got the target groups. Let's now go back to the auto scaling group. Auto scaling group, create auto scaling group. So there are two steps. One is the launch configuration and the other one is the auto scaling group. Get started, and in here for the launch configuration we are going to choose the AMI that we created earlier. So I'm going to use that, select, and then I'm going to go with the default T2 micro because that's free tier eligible. Configure details. I'm going to give it a name for this launch configuration, web server launch configuration. Advanced details, use the data, we don't need anything, everything comes from the image itself. Add storage, the default storage, that looks good. Security group, okay, create a new security group. I'm going to create a new security group, web server security group, and set the same for the description, web server security group. Allow access on HTTP port 80, and I'm going to restrict that because all the traffic to these web servers will be coming only from the elastic load balancer. So if I choose custom IP and then start typing SG, so this one is the security group that we created for the elastic load balancer. So if you select that one, it only allows traffic from the load balancer to all the web servers. So that's what we want. Click review, create launch configuration, choose an existing key pair for all the EC2 web server instances. Create launch configuration, that's done. So now we are heading to the auto scaling group. Group name, web server auto scaling group, and it uses the launch configuration which we just created. Group size, I'm going to say I need 2 instances to start with. Network, default VPC, subnet. So I want my web servers to auto scale in these two availability zones, 2A and 2B. So if you click on that, it will show you a pop-up. So I'm going to select 2A and 2B. Okay, so advanced details, load balancing. Receive traffic from one or more load balancers. We have already configured a load balancer, so we are receiving traffic to this auto scaling group from a load balancer. Target group. So this is what I was talking about. If you didn't create an elastic load balancer, these two options will be grayed out. So since we had created an elastic load balancer, the target group is active. So if you just click on that, it will list all the target groups that you have configured in your account. So we just created web servers target group as part of ELB configuration. So select that. Health check type. So this auto scaling group can check the health of the instances, or the elastic load balancer that we configured also checks the health of the application itself. So let's go with ELB. And health check grace period. So I'm going to change that from 5 minutes, 300 seconds to 30 seconds. So every 30 seconds, it checks the health of the application, whether the website, whether the web page is accessible. Okay, configure scaling policies. So keep this group at its initial size. So if I leave it like this, we've set the auto scaling group to have 2 instances. So that's the desired instance. And if any of the instance goes unhealthy, if it crashes or if it goes away, if there is any problem, it will create another instance. So we are saying that please maintain 2 healthy instances at any time. So that's the default auto scaling group. But if you want to scale based on certain load, certain CPU utilization, IO, or network based utilization, you can configure that. I'll quickly show you that, but I'm not going to be doing that in this demo. Use scaling policies to adjust the capacity of this group. If you select that, scale the auto scaling group using step. Okay, so increase the group size. So when do you want to increase the group size? Execute this policy when an alarm is reached. So we don't have any alarms. Let's create a new alarm, and I don't want a notification, so no notification. If you want, you can set this notification. There is no SNS topic at the moment, simple notification service. And if you want, you can create a new topic, and then if you add email address, all the email address subscribed to that topic will get the notification. So let's disable that. So whenever the average or minimum or maximum, whatever you want, you can choose. Whenever the average CPU utilization is greater than, less than, let's say greater than or equal to 80% for at least one consecutive period of 5 minutes. So that's the name of the alarm. So once you create the alarm, so we are creating an alarm for the average CPU utilization, and the alarm will be triggered if the average CPU utilization is greater than 80% for at least one consecutive period of 5 minutes. So I'm not going to create an alarm, but if you want, you can create an alarm. So when that alarm is triggered, take this action, let's say add 2 more instances to it, right? Similarly, for decreased group size, you can create another alarm for CPU utilization. If the average CPU utilization drops below 20%, then reduce the number of instances. Take the action, remove 2 instances, and so on. So there are lots of scaling options that you can choose, but I'm going to stick with keep this group at its initial size. So always I want to maintain 2 instances. Configure a notification. So this is another notification. If you want, you can add a notification. So use an existing topic, or you can create a new topic. And if you add an email address here, that email address will get a subscription link. And once you activate the subscription link, any notifications will get posted to that topic, and that will get pushed to your email address. So whenever an instance is launched or terminated or failed to launch, there are certain things that you can check if you want notified of certain events. So for this demo, I'm just going to ignore notification. Configure tags key. I'm going to say name is auto web server. Okay. So review, create auto scaling group. Auto scaling group is getting created. Okay. So that's our auto scaling group. The desired capacity is 2. And at the moment, there are no instances. So these are some details of the auto scaling group we just created. Activity history, and you can see already it has started launching 2 instances. So because that's our desired capacity. And we have the scaling policy. We didn't add any scaling policy. Instances, so those are the 2 instances that are getting launched. Monitoring some basic metrics of the auto scaling group. We didn't have any notification. If you want, you can create notifications, and so on. Okay, let's go back to the instances. And you can see these 2 instances, and they are initializing at the moment. And if I go to target groups and see the targets, so these 2 targets are actually healthy, but let's just wait for the instances to finish its initialization check. I'm going to pause the video here and come back when these 2 instances are ready. All right, AutoScaling Group has successfully launched these 2 instances, and if you look at the name tag, we added the tag to the AutoScaling group. So cool. So we've got these 2 instances, and if we look at the target groups, the targets are here. So these are the registered targets. We didn't register these targets manually. Since we added this target group to the AutoScaling group, so whenever the AutoScaling group launches new instances, it will add to this target group. So they will be automatically registered. So that's the idea behind the AutoScaling group. Okay, so we'll go to the load balancer, and we'll grab the DNS name of our load balancer, and let's see if we can access the website. Cool. So welcome to my world. So everything is working fine. So that's auto scaling group. Let's do one testing. Let's select one of the instance and then terminate that instance. Instance state. Excuse me. Let's terminate this instance. Okay, so that's shutting down. And let's go to the target groups, targets, and you can see there's only one target registered now. And if I go to auto scaling groups and look at the instances, so it takes about 30 seconds. Health check grace period 30 seconds. So in a short while you will see the number of instances as 1. Activity history, All right, so now you can see waiting for ELB connection draining, terminating EC2 instance. So let's go to the instances and check what's happening. Okay, we still have just one server, so the auto scaling group will kick in and it's going to start another server. So we have this one EC2 instance in availability zone 2A, so another instance will get launched because we have terminated the instance in the availability zone 2B. The auto scaling group will launch the second instance because the desired instance we've set as 2. At the moment there is only one instance, so the auto scaling group will create another instance. Let's go back to the auto scaling group. So instances 3, activity history, not yet in service, launching a new EC2 instance. So if we go back to instance now, okay, so there you go. So that's the second instance. It has launched in EU West 2B. So it knows exactly where to place the instances. So since we have selected 2A and 2B as the availability zones, it knows where to create that. Okay, so if we go back to load balancers and click check the DNS name, paste, cool, welcome to my world, that's working fine. Okay, cool. So we have deployed a high available web application across multiple availability zones and through the load balancer, Elastic Load Balancer. So the Elastic Load Balancer is a Amazon managed service, so we don't have to do anything about it. If the load increases or if the traffic spikes or if the traffic increases all of a sudden, then Amazon will take care of auto scaling the Elastic Load Balancers in these two availability zones. So this is how you create a highly available web application. Okay, so as usual, we've learned something and then let's clear up. Let's delete all the resources we deployed. If you go to auto scaling group, the first one to delete is the auto scaling group. Select the auto scaling group and then click delete. Yes, delete. So that's getting deleted. It's going to take a while. So if you delete the auto scaling group, it will automatically delete all the instances. So it will delete, it will shut down and terminate these two instances automatically for us, so we don't have to do anything about it. Okay, launch configuration. So we can delete the launch configuration. Action, delete launch configuration, delete. That's gone. Let's go to load balancers and then click action, delete. Yes, delete. And then let's delete the target groups. So if you try to delete the target group first before deleting the load balancer, it won't let you delete the target group because this target group is used by the load balancer configuration. Okay, select the target group and click delete. Okay, our target group is gone. Launch configuration we have deleted. Auto scaling groups. Auto scaling group is still there. Instances. Okay, so it has started shutting down one instance, so it's going to shut down another instances in a short while. Alright, both the instances are gone now, and if I go to auto scaling groups, auto scaling group is also deleted. Let's go ahead and delete the security groups that we created. Web server security group and elastic load balancer security group. Click action, delete security groups. Yes, delete. Delete security group. Yes, delete. Okay, and finally the AMI that we created, the Amazon machine image we created, select the image and then click deregister. Continue. Okay, so that's gone. Let's have a look at our EC2 dashboard. Everything is gone. So there is one snapshot. So when you create an AMI from your existing EC2 instances, it's going to snapshot your existing Elastic Block Store EBS volume. So if you go to snapshots, you will see that EBS snapshot volume from the original EC2 instance that we launched. Select that and delete it. Yes, delete. Okay, cool. So EC2 dashboard. this is how we started, and this is how we are ending it now. So we have cleaned all the resources that we created. It's always good to clean up all the resources you have deployed so that you save your free tier limits. Okay, cool. I think that's all I wanted to show you in this video: how to configure an elastic load balancer, how to use auto scaling groups, how to use scaling policies, notifications, how to design a high availability, multi availability zone architecture, and so on. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please share it with your friends. If you've got any questions, or uh, there are lots of parts involved in setting up this architecture, in designing and creating this architecture. So anywhere, anything can go wrong easily. So pay careful attention. If I went really fast, I think I didn't. Please pause the video and go through each step carefully before proceeding to the next step, because anything can go wrong, especially when it comes to security group. If you don't configure your security group carefully, you won't be able to access your web application. Okay, so yeah, thank you so much for your time watching this video today. Hope you enjoyed it. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel. I've got lots of interesting videos to come in this series. By the way, if you want to know about any specific topic in AWS, please share it in the comment, and I'll add it to my to-do list. At the moment, I'm releasing video every Wednesday and Thursday. So keep suggesting me some topics so that I will add it to my list and then do it whenever I have some time. Okay, cool. I will see you all in my next video. Bye bye.